Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahavidyam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Now, thus far in the journey that we have traveled, we have gradually come to identify that there is a principle which is called the life principle, which is called consciousness, which is called God principle, which is called life energy, which is called God. Now, and that is the one which is energizing everything that we do, everything that we think, everything that we feel. That is the energy that is making the entire world function, not only in us, in other living beings also, and through our own power in other inanimate objects also. It is the same principle which is functional. So now, how to identify that abstract? We dealt with chapter 9 last time, and we are now reaching chapter 10. So doubt will arise in our mind. How do we identify with this something which is an abstract thought? As I said earlier, one of my friends told me that God is a concept. So how do we identify? Now, dealing with the challenges that we face in our life is our own inner battle. Now, we cannot expect things outside of us to become conducive for us to be able to rise up to our own challenges. So if we correct our inner equipment, our mind and intellect, which is our inner equipment, we will be able to tackle any situation, any challenge in the life, in life that we face adroitly. That is possible. So we learned that this life principle, this consciousness, the life energy in us, this is the supreme being in all of us, which is making the entire world of our thoughts, our emotions, our actions work through our body, our mind, and our intellect. And that our own imprints, our own tendencies in each one of us is what is making each of us act in a different way, differently at different times. This is our condition, we understood. Now, every creative work in the world happens only with the availability of some material cause of creation, the instrumental cause of creation, and the efficient cause of creation. For example, if I am doing a painting, now in the painting, the material cause of creation is the canvas, the colors, etc. The instrumental cause of creation is the brush with which we use the colors on the canvas. And the efficient cause is our own mind and intellect through which we express our thoughts on the canvas. So let us say the cotton in the shirt that I'm wearing, the cotton in that. This is not cotton, that's all right. Cotton in the shirt, the loom that converted that cotton into yarn, the spinning mill that converted that loom into fabric, the shirt machinery which converted that fabric into the shirt. Now, all of this, if you were to look at it, the cotton was the material cause, and subsequently it went into various processes of transformation by the instrumentation which happened at each stage. And the efficient cause for making all these possible is the intelligence of the creators who applied themselves in each of these processes. So even the materials and the instruments that were created by our own efficient intelligence, the instruments were also created by our own intelligence, so which is also empowered by this consciousness. So in this analogy, when we look at it, we can realize that it is the cause of creation is all this life principle and this life principle alone. So I now move into chapter 10. So I will be playing first verse 1 to 18. Verse 1 to 18 is a continuation of the narrative that was happening when Krishna was talking to Arjuna. And after 18, Arjuna asks a question, which is you and me asking a question, that you're saying so many things, I'm unable to understand all of these. Can you put them in a different light for me? That is how it is. So I'll be playing 1 to 18 now. Later I will play 19 to 42. As I said last time, since I am dealing with the entire chapter in one sitting, the playing will be for a little longer. Be patient. Listen to it as much as you can possibly absorb it. Listen to the verse and try and absorb it in your mind, please.
अथ दशमोऽध्यायः विभूतियोगः। श्रीभगवानुवाच भूय एव महाबाहो शृणु मे परमं वचः यत्तेऽहं प्रीयमाणाय वक्ष्यामि हितकाम्यया। न मे विदुः सुरगणाः प्रभवं न महर्षयः अहमादिर्हि देवानां महर्षीणां च सर्वशः। यो मामजमनादिं च वेत्ति लोकमहेश्वरम् असम्मूढः समत्येषु सर्वपापैः प्रमुच्यते। बुद्धिर्ज्ञानमसम्मोहः क्षमा सत्यं दमः शमः सुखं दुःखं भवो भावो भयं चाभयमेव च। अहिंसा समता तुष्टिस्तपोदानं यशो यशः भवन्ति भावा भूतानां मत्त एव पृथग्विधाः। महर्षयः सप्त पूर्वे चत्वारो मनवस्तथा मद्भावा मानसा जाता येषां लोक इमाः प्रजाः। एतां विभूतिं योगं च मम यो वेत्ति तत्त्वतः सोऽविकल्पेन योगेन युज्यते नात्र संशयः। अहं सर्वस्य प्रभवो मत्तः सर्वं प्रवर्तते इति मत्वा भजन्ते मां बुधा भावसमन्विताः। मच्चित्ता मद्गतप्राणा बोधयन्तः परस्परम् कथयन्तश्च मां नित्यं तुष्यन्ति च रमन्ति च। तेषां सततयुक्तानां भजतां प्रीतिपूर्वकम् ददामि बुद्धियोगं तं येन मामुपयान्ति ते। तेषामेवानुकम्पार्थमहमज्ञानजं तमः नाशयाम्यात्मभावस्थो ज्ञानदीपेन भास्वता। अर्जुन उवाच परं ब्रह्म परं धाम पवित्रं परमं भवान् पुरुषं शाश्वतं दिव्यम् आदिदेवमजं विभुम्। आहुस्त्वां ऋषयः सर्वे देवर्षिर्नारदस्तथा असितो देवलो व्यासः स्वयं चैव ब्रवीषि मे। सर्वमेतद्रुतं मन्ये यन्मां वदसि केशव। न हि ते भगवन् व्यक्तिं विदुर्देवा न दानवाः स्वयमेवात्मनात्मानं वेत्थ त्वं पुरुषोत्तम। भूतभावन भूतेश देवदेव जगत्पते वक्तुमर्हस्य शेषेण दिव्या ह्यात्मविभूतयः। याभिर्विभूतिभिर्लोकानिमांस्त्वं व्याप्य तिष्ठसि। कथं विद्यामहं योगिंस्त्वां सदा परिचिन्तयन्। केषु केषु च भावेषु चिन्त्योऽसि भगवन्मया। विस्तरेणात्मनो योगं विभूतिं च जनार्दन। भूयः कथय तृप्तिर्हि शृण्वतो नास्ति मे मृतम्।
This chapter 10 is called Vibhuti Yoga. Now, many of us who are Brahmins, we will understand this very well, that Vibhuti is the bhasma that we apply on our forehead. Now, what does this imply? Vibhuti really means glory. That is what Vibhuti really means. So what does this imply? This implies that I am glorious with the knowledge that I have got, because Brahmanas are meant to be people with knowledge. So I am glorious with the knowledge that I have, and the glory of the Lord is through the knowledge that I am willing to share. This is how you can look at it. Now let us look at it a little more practically in our way. Now, we watch movies, right? And in many movies we come across that the hero is somebody who can do anything, anything which is possible. He will sing, He will sing the most melodious songs. He will dance. His dance will be one of the best dances that he can do. And when he fights, he can fight 20 people at the same time, and he can fire a gun, he can hit a knife, he can use a stick, any damn thing that is possible. And he can also cry like a baby because he is a very emotional person. So you really bring across a person who's got so many qualities, a really Sakalakala Vallaban. That is the kind of thing that we come across when we talk of heroes in movies. Now, when we look at this chapter basically deals with what is the glory of that Lord. Now, what is Lord? We understood that it is this divine principle which is running through all of us. So, which means when we say, I am working, the moment I am able to get over this idea that I am working, my selfish identity, I realize that it is basically that life principle. He is working through me. This is what I understand with my intellect. When he is working through me, who's that he? Who's that hero which is in me? So in the entire narrative itself, you will find that Krishna is talking about he as Krishna. But it is not Krishna who's that friend of Arjuna or brother-in-law of Arjuna or that boy from Vrindavan or the charioteer. No, it is basically that principle which is within. So now let us take this, with this understanding, we will take this forward and understand this heroism business. Now, I have been talking to you because you are interested in what I have got to communicate. Because of your interest, I delight in sharing my thoughts with you. So my intention is only that I exchange this, whatever I am exchanging with you, this exchange should benefit you. Now that is the very meaning of our starting prayer also. Sahana vavatu, sahano bhunaktu, sahavidyam kauravavai. The entire meaning of that prayer itself is that in our interaction, the knowledge, the light of knowledge should shine both of us. So in that respect, what is it? I am a conduit only. So that hero is first and foremost a conduit only. Now let us understand this next. When I was born, my mother became my mother. Till my mother, when I say the first child, till the mother delivers the first child, the mother is only a lady. Only when the mother delivers the first child, the mother is born. Till then the mother is not born. Now where did the mother come from? The mother came from her parents. And so on, if you want to look on, it went on so on. So similarly, when I talk about this world of my experiences, it must have come from somewhere. No? This world that we are talking about, the world of my experiences, it must have come from somewhere. Now that where it has come from, that unknown reality is the same life principle which is for me, which is for you, which is for everyone, and which is for everything and everyone in this world which has emerged. So where we have emerged from? Kahan se tu aaya aur kahan tujhe jana hai, खुश है वही जो इस बात से बेगाना है. This is the principle. So understanding is that where did I come from? Where will I go? It is that unknown reality, which is what we are trying to identify. And for the unknown reality, we call the word he. Now, fuel, petrol, diesel, gas, electric power, whatever it is the power that moves all vehicles. Without fuel, none of the vehicles can move. Last time I gave the example of engine, transmission, etc. So, but fuel is that with which this moves. If there is no fuel, all this will not come into action at all. Electricity is the power that drives all electrical equipment. So when we look at it that way, they are the Lord of the respective instruments that are functioning. So we heard earlier in one of the earlier sessions that the life principle is called Sarva Loka Maheshwara. Sarva, the entire world of all our experiences. Your experience, my experience is like that, the universal experience of everybody together. The Lord of all that is this life principle. So the Lord of my world, of my experiences, is what I understand. Because in my world, like that in your world, like that in anybody else's world, that is the Lord that we want to understand. So now we will try to realize his presence in us in whatever manner we can. So first I will share that BMI chart, which we are all familiar with. So this we are all familiar with by now. I think you must have seen this half a dozen times. With the objects of our perception, with the feelings of our emotions, with our thoughts of our intellect, we can't recognize the highest principle. Why? Because there is that bundle of our tendencies which is there, which is blocking us, because our expressions down below are all from the bundle of tendencies, imprints that is already in us. So we are unable to see the life principle which is above us. Now we can develop a few qualities of purity in the way we think, in the way we act, in the way we feel. We can develop these qualities, these purities we can develop. But recognizing that principle is a little limited for us, because we, in our world of experiences, we are confined to these objects. We are confined to these objects, we are confined to these emotions, we are confined to these thoughts, whereas we want to recognize, because these are all the objects, we want to recognize the very subject which is making all this possible, and which is the source from which we have come, and all of us are there. So which is the one which is making everything possible. So the moment you say that I want to recognize this from my BMI, from my objects, emotions and thoughts, as the perceiver, feeler or the thinker, it is limited, because there are my ingrained tendencies which are limiting my vision towards that. So I need to climb over them, only then I can see that. Now the Lord, the Om principle which we are talking about, is unborn. It is beginningless, which means that there is no modification. Earlier, now or afterwards, there is no modification. It is always the same. It is permanent. It is unchangeable. Now we are all subject to changes, because there is that bundle which we have come with. We are subject to changes, but the life principle in us is the permanent illuminator of all those changes also. So every change that we see, every change that we undergo, in all of them, it is this illuminator which is the illuminator of all of those. So the intellect that is in us, our intelligence that is in us, the wisdom that we have developed, the ability that we have to forgive other people, the principle in us that we have to be truthful when we talk to people, our ability to restrain ourselves from doing things which are wrong, our ability to calm our mind when we are agitated, the happiness that we feel in our heart when we are in a in joy, or the pain that we suffer when we are in sorrow, the fear that something untoward could occur, or the fearlessness in being able to meet such a situation, the equanimity that we have in meeting various challenges that we come across in life, or the austerity, that is basically the idea that simple living and high thinking, where that, or the generosity we have in our ability to give to others, all of these are coming from the empowerment given by that Lord principle in us. Without this, none of us can express, none of these can express, none of anything can express, isn't it? So He alone is. Only He is. Everything else is coming from Him. Sorry, just a moment. I'm feeling a little hoarse in the throat. So the only truth is He and He alone. तू एक ही है और कुछ नहीं है. तू तू है वही दिल ने जिसे अपना कहा, तू है जहां मैं हूं वहां, अब तो जीना तेरे बिन है सजा. मिल जाए इस तरह दो लहरें जिस तरह, फिर हो ना जुदा ये वादा रहा. This is it. The only principle which is there is two and two alone. So wherever you are there, I am also there, because it is you who's eliminating everything that I am doing. So when we work together as a team, so when I understand your presence in me and that you are the illuminator which is functioning through me, my entire work becomes that much more creative, that much more progressive, that much more happy, and I permeate that to everyone with whom I come in association with. So the creative thoughts to engage in any progressive action that we want to undergo, the discriminative intellect to analyze, to judge, to understand the situation, put all the facts together, try to create the picture of what is right and what is wrong, and ensure that we come up with the right action plan. Then the world of various materials, which is basically the five elements. The five elements, earth, fire, air, space, water. The five elements, which is functioning through our body. all the actions that we are doing, all the work that we are doing, all the talking that we are doing, all the listening that we are doing, it is all possible because it is coming from that Lord principle, and that is what is enabling us to perform all the work that we are doing. This we should be able to understand. So in this background, when we say Vibhuti, what is Vibhuti? It is the principle of understanding the glory of many. That is you, me, my thoughts, your thoughts, the world of various minds and emotions, the plants, animals, every other being in the world of many in one, which is the Lord principle. So it is the glories of the Lord in every one of us. Everything that we encounter, everything that we experience, every other living being in the world itself, in these experiences, the material, the instrumental, and the efficient cause of all these things is the life principle and life principle alone. And the difference is because of our individual personality layer. So this we should be in a position to understand. Now, once we understand this correctly meaning what? We don't understand this with our intellect. We understand this by absorbing it in our spiritual heart. What is spiritual heart? I think I must have mentioned this. If I have not, I'm now saying. We know our physical heart to be in in the left side of our body, beneath our lungs, etc. We know that, correct? Now, the spiritual heart is something which is like the solar plexus that we can talk about, the middle of the heart. It is not a physical organ. It is the development of whatever thinking process that we have. It is the development of the person that we are. Correct? That development, when it happens, that spiritual development, when it happens, we should be able to understand this principle correctly from that side. Our belief system, our faith, etc., then will remain unshaken. We understand, I remember, go back to my example which I gave last time. We understand that we are nothing but the ocean which is manifesting itself as a small wave, chota action, chota thought, chota work, some chota thing, correct? Small wave, or something like a little bigger wave. When it becomes a little manifest as a project, I want to do this, or I want to get my child married, or something like that, something like that. Or a giant wave, that I have accomplished something great, some great glory that I have done. Where did all this come from? The small wave, the big wave, the giant wave, all of them came from the ocean. They rose from the ocean, they grew in their heights in the ocean, and finally they go back and merge into the ocean when the expression is over. It is the same thing with us also. Every time, and this is not about physical death, every time when we are in a position to think of something, want to perform something, this expression rises in us from this principle, grows its stature in this principle alone. It creates that glory in us in this principle alone. And once our expression is also completed in whatever manner we do, whether it is painting, singing, talking, working, whatever we are doing, in any of them, finally that expression over, it comes and merges back into the same principle. There is nothing else. So when we are among friends, let's say I'm with my college friends, etc., what will be the subjects that we will discuss? We will be discussing subjects which are common amongst friends. Like example, we talk about things which happened in college, how we enjoyed. We talk about other people, etc. The subject becomes common. That subjects will be that which we are familiar with in our college times. Likewise, when we are with our family, what are the subjects that will come about? It will come about people in the family. It come about events in the family. It comes about certain things which we are holding dear in the family. So we speak about those. So our entire interaction in any group of people is on subjects which are associated with each our minds. So familiar subjects are our occupation in our known fields of action. For example, recently we had this movie called Kashmir Files, which was released. Now, because Kashmir Files is something which is topical for understanding what happened to the Kashmiri Pandits back in 1990, what was the history of, how it came about in 1990, what was history prior to that, what has happened after that. We now suddenly start talking about it. You will have watched some video clip, you will share something with me, I would have watched some news item, I will share that with you, we would have read something, we'll share that. So the subject becomes common. Similarly, now what is happening with the Ukraine-Russia war? When it came about, there was a lot of discussion. Now everybody is wondering when it will get over, how it will get over. Every theory that is possibly abound, people can bring about all the theories happening. So once we are similarly on the path of spirituality, we are on this path of spirituality, understanding this principle itself, our discussion also will be about understanding and realizing this higher reality for our mutual growth. So by this interaction that we have in our mind, internally churning within ourselves, and externally when we talk to other people, this is the kind of churning which will happen with us, because within us, and as the churning happens, we are in a position to grow and blossom that spiritual heart within us. Now, whenever we are able to transfer our attention to this life principle, please mind what I'm saying. Thus, if we bring about this thinking process in our mind, and when we are able to transfer our attention to this life principle with love and devotion, that's very important, because you are the one who's energizing me. You are the one which is making everything possible for me. Now, if you are there, it is your glory that we are talking about. So when we are in a position to transfer our attention like that, our intellect gains the sharpness, because when we bring that with love and devotion, only when you have a love for your child will you be in a position to do care for your child. When you have love for your spouse, your entire actions as a couple will be that much more lovely, beautiful, that you can also experience. So when we transfer our attention to this life principle, our intellect gains that sharpness to climb over our own limitations, and it connects with the life principle. Now, this can happen for 1 minute, 2 minutes when we are in meditation. At that point in time, we lose our identity. We do not think with our mind and intellect that I am meditating, because the moment you say I am meditating, it is an action that you are doing. If you remember, I said meditation is not a verb, it is a noun. I mentioned this earlier. So when we think that I am meditating, it is an action that I am doing. So you are bringing your intellect and your mind into the process of you are doing something. But the moment you disconnect, and that happens in meditation, when you disconnect from the idea that I am doing, even for a 20-second, 1 minute, 2 minutes, you connect with that life principle. So that's where you say, मेरा प्यार भी तू है, ये बहार भी तू है, तू ही नजरों में जाने तमन्ना, तू ही नजारों में. So everything what you see is also from that life principle, and even that even the entire vision itself is the life principle only in action. So I will take it. That sharing was not required. It continued. Now, we feel very strongly about nationalism. We feel very strongly about our nation, about our identity as a country, etc., etc. We feel probably very strongly of our team, which we are involved in sports. I'm playing IPL. I belong to my team, let us say, Lucknow Super Giants. I start feeling very strongly about my team. We are part of a team in work where we feel very strongly about our team. Now, we identify ourselves with our nationalism, with our sports team, with our work team, etc. At that point in time, how we are able to identify ourselves with a deliverable in that vision, and bring our entire attention to that cause that we are doing, whatever is that cause, whether it is to do with what we are doing in national pride, or for the performance as a team in the sports arena, or at work when we are working. That ability to identify ourselves with that cause and bring our entire attention to that, similarly, we must be in a position to focus on that life principle, because he is the boss of the body, mind, and intellect, and the objects, emotions, and thoughts. I removed that sharing now, but that's exactly what it is. So when we are able to identify with that, the compassion of that boss, like the captain of our team, the leader of our country, or the boss of our work team, the compassion of that boss to us is total, and he will aid us in whatever progress that we want to do. I can give you this example in a little way, this in a different example. Let us say a mother has 3 children. There are two older children. One is 8, one is 6, and the third one is a toddler, maybe 2 years old. Now, all the three are playing with toys, and the 2-year fellow is crying. He's just crying and crying, and the mother is shouting from the kitchen, "Arey, number one, what is it that you are not looking after your younger brother?" The number one goes and tries to look after the younger brother. That fellow keeps on crying, crying, crying. Then the mother is unable to bear it. She comes out of the kitchen and she scolds these two fellows, the elder two fellows. "You are not looking after your younger brother. Get out of the house and go and play outside." They go away. There are so many toys there. So the mother takes up the toys and says, "You take this. Your bhaiya is not giving you the toys. Take this toy." Now the child is continuously crying. All the toys, one by one, the mother is giving the toys, and the child is continuing to cry. Now, mother says, "Oh, probably he wants me to lift him." And the mother lifts the child and puts him in his arm. There, that boy puts his finger inside his thumb and he stops crying. So, all that the boy wanted was to connect with the mother, physically connect with the mother. So, if we have an approach like that to the life principle, to the Lord within each of us, even if it be for a short while, we connect ourselves with that principle. So that love, that devotion is what is required for us to connect with this principle, because that is what will aid our growth. So we come back to what was the topic we said. Our chapter is Vibhuti Yoga. That is the name of the chapter. So these are two ways of looking at the life principle. Vibhuti meaning what? I said glory. So the glory of that one, which is the life principle, in all these forms, in all these names, in all these creations, in everything that we do, in everything that we see in the world, in everything that we enjoy, every experience that we encounter, it is that one in many. What is yoga? What I said a little while earlier. When we are able to merge all that we are doing, all that we are thinking, all the emotions that we are feeling, everything into one, and recognize this life principle as the unifying factor, realizing that there is only this one and this one only, and the many expressions that we are seeing, the many expressions that we are doing, the experiences that we encounter, is only this principle and this principle alone which is functional. If you remember, I gave the example of that somebody coming home to kill me, in the night. I'm just dreaming that somebody is coming and he's walking through the light. There is a moonlight which is sort of focusing on me. Suddenly he is able to see me and he rushes to me to kill me. And I see him rushing, and then I stumble and fall down. And when I fall down, I suddenly wake up from my sleep. I realize that I was sleeping. So only when I wake up can I know the person who's me, who was sleeping before I got the dream. In the dream, the person who was likely to be killed was not me. So long as I'm in a position to wake up from my present slumber of not knowing that it is this life principle which is energizing everything, I will be working in the dream only. When I am aware of this, then I will be working as a waker, and I will be in a position to do everything that I do with this understanding that it is this principle which is energizing everything that I am doing. There are two ways in which we can connect with other people in the world: by love, by tenderness, by kindness, by care, forgiveness. No, these are all good qualities. Good qualities are all called devas. We use these words in our scriptures. We come across these words. So devas are not somebody who's sitting above the sky. These good qualities are devas. Or we can connect with somebody with total hatred, with total anger, jealousy about what they have got, greed that I want to get whatever they have got. So these are the danavas. So these are two ways we connect with people. Either that I must either hate or be angry or jealous or something like that, some negative quality, or a positive quality of being associated with that person. Either way, in either way that we do, we are ultimately connecting with that highest principle which is manifesting in us as well as in those with whom we are connecting. There is no other principle in either of us. So in either way we are connecting with that. So ultimately the connection to that life principle is through any action. The action is different. Sorry, I'll share a slide and then speak about it a little more. This is another slide that I have shared with you earlier. This is the center of Rome. If you want to go to the center of Rome, all the roads are leading to Rome. All the roads are leading to Rome. My choice, what is the road I want to take? Depending on the road I take, I will reach there. But the road choice is entirely left to me. I will reach the same place because that road finally leads to that place only. So when we understand this, all the paths that we follow, all the principles that we follow, all the choices that we make, everything is leading towards that principle and that principle alone. And you can call him He, the Lord, He, the principle, He, God, He, Krishna. It is entirely left to us. So now we come to the we ended with an understanding of what Arjuna was asking. Some description about, Arjuna is asking him, give me some description. All this is abstract. Give me some description. So there is a narrative about what those descriptions are. I'll be playing now verse 19 to 42. It goes on for about 5 minutes. Please patiently listen to that. Then I will start talking about it. It's not much because I'm not taking all of them. There are so many examples he has given. Some leading examples I am taking so that we understand what we are talking about.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha Hantate kathayishyami divyahyatma vibhutayah Pradhanyatah kuru shrestha nastyanto vistarasya me Ahamatma gudakesha sarvabhutashaya sthitah Ahamadishcha madhyam cha bhutanamanta eva cha Adityanamaham Vishnurjyotisham Raviramshuman Marichirmarutamasmi Nakshatranamaham Shashi Vedanam Samavedosmi Devanamasmi Vasavaha Indriyanam Manaschasmi Bhutanamasmi Chetana Rudranam Shankaraschasmi Vittesho Yaksharakshasam Vasunam Pavakaschasmi Meruh Shikharinamaham Purodhasam cha mukhyam mam Vidhi Partha Brihaspatim Senaninamaham Skandah Sarasavasmi Sagarah Mahashīnām bhruguraham girāmasmyekamaksharam Yajñānām japa yajñosmi sthavarāణām himalayah Ashvattha sarva vrukṣāణām devarshīnām ca nāradah Gandharvāణām citraratah siddhānām kapilo munihi Uchchai Shravasamashvanam Vidhi Mamamrutodbhavam Eravatam Gajendranam Naranam cha Naradhipam Ayudhanamaham Vajram Dhenunam Kamadhuk Prajanaschasmi Kandarpah Sarpanam Vasukihi Anantaschasmi Naganam Varuno Yadasamaham Pitrunam Adyamachasmi Yamah Samyamatamaham Prahladaschasmi Daityanam Kalah Kalayatamaham Mruganam cha Mrugendroham Vainateyascha Pakshinam Pavanah Pavatamasmi Ramah Shastrabhritamaham Jhashanam Makaraschasmi Srotasamasmi Jahnavi Sarganam Adirantascha Madhyam Chaivaham Arjuna Adhyatma Vidya Vidyanam Vadah Pravadatamaham Aksharaణam akarosmi dvandvah samasikasya cha Ahamevakshayah kalo dhataham vishvato mukhah Mrutyuh sarvaharaschaham udbhavascha bhavishyataam Kirtih shrirvakcha narinam smrutir medha dhrutih kshama Brihat sama tatha samnam gayatri chandasamaham मासानां मार्गशीर्षोऽहं ऋतूनां कुसुमाकरः द्यूतं छलयतामस्मि तेजस्तेजस्विनामहम् जयोऽस्मि व्यवसायोऽस्मि सत्त्वं सत्त्ववतामहम् वृष्णीनां वासुदेवोऽस्मि पाण्डवानां धनञ्जयः मुनीनामप्यहं व्यासः कवीनामुशना कविः दण्डो दमयतामस्मि नीतिरस्मि जिगीषताम् मौनं चैवास्मि गुह्यानां ज्ञानं ज्ञानवतामहम् यच्चापि सर्वभूतानां बीजं तदहमर्जुन न तदस्ति विना यत्स्यान्मया भूतं चराचरम् नान्तोऽस्ति मम दिव्यानां विभूतीनां परन्तप एष तूद्देशतः प्रोक्तो विभूतेर्विस्तरो मया यद्यद्विभूतिमत्सत्त्वं श्रीमदूर्जितमेव वा तत्तदेवावगच्छत्वं मम तेजोंशसम्भवम् अथवा बहुनैतेन किं ज्ञातेन तवार्जुन विष्टभ्याहमिदं कृत्स्नम् एकांशेन स्थितो जगत् ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे विभूतियोगो नाम दशमोऽध्यायः.
So here Krishna is describing his own glories. His own glory meaning the glories of the Lord. So we had to patiently listen to that. And as I said, since I am doing this all together, this section was a little longer. Now, he meaning the Lord is not restricted by anything. We saw that picture of the Rome, that all the roads lead to Rome. It is not that he is within that. He is limitless. He is infinite. He is everlasting. And he is the Lord of all our hearts. For all the living beings, for all of us, he is the Lord of our hearts. Sometimes, like how we are talking now and we are trying to understand, we know. In many cases, people don't know. Most cases, people don't know. But yet, he is the Lord of their hearts. So, he is the beginning, he is the middle, and the end of all living beings. Exactly like how the ocean, when the small wave starts, at that time also it is the ocean. And it becomes a little small wave, it is the ocean. It becomes a little bigger wave, it is the ocean. It becomes the highest of waves, it is still the ocean. And when it crashes and falls down, it is the ocean. So like that, he is the beginning, middle, and the end of all living beings. He is the brightest in all living light sources. What is the brightest in all light sources? It is the sun. There are some descriptions about there being 12 suns, etc. I don't want to go into that. But he is the sun. The sun is also him alone. He is the most pleasant of all destructive forces. In destruction also you can see him. For example, I gave this example last time. Where does air rest? Air rests in space. The wind rests in space. So when that pleasant wind is coming, that is also the wind which is coming from space. Gradually, as it goes on and becomes a storm and creates the destruction, that is also the wind alone. Now, even in a pleasant wind, there is a destruction in the sense that that wind creates a new experience and ends a new experience. So the destruction of an earlier experience and the birth of a new experience, that is also happening through him alone. That is also the Lord's manifestation. He is the ocean among all water bodies. So when we talk about water, the largest that we can think about is Sagar. He is the Sagar also. And that song which comes to my mind is तू प्यार का सागर है, तू प्यार का सागर है, तेरी एक बूंद के प्यासे हम. So it is basically that we are just one drop of that ocean. Now he is the source of all the knowledge that we have. We have, we don't have, which we are going to acquire. He is the source of all the knowledge. He is the source of all the music that we have. He is the very mind, our mind. He is that mind also. Because that mind which is activating our sense organs when we experience our objects and emotions, that mind is also him alone. He is the intelligence that aids our discrimination and rational thinking. So we think that, we are thinking with our intellect. That intelligence in that intellect is our Lord itself. So he is the best and the noblest in everything in the universe. So any subject that you take, any object that you take, anything that you take, he is the best and the noblest in all of that. He is the best among all the words. That is Om. Omkara is the source of all syllables, all music, everything that comes. He is that Om also. He is the best among all the yajnas. Among all the yajnas, he is the best, which is what? Japa yajna. The ability to chant the name of the Lord. In fact, we have heard in Hinduism, we hear that you don't know anything, you don't know Bhagavad Gita, nothing, no problem. You know to chant Krishna, 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 you know to chant Rama, 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 that is sufficient. So in that, he is the best among all the yajnas, which is called Japa yajna. But our focus must be there. Like for example, even if you're saying Rama, 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 you're saying Rama, 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 अरे उसका phone नहीं आया, उसको अभी बात करना है, Rama, 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 Rama. That is what happens. So I remember as a child, in Matunga, we had a uncle who was staying there on the ground floor and we were on the first floor. He used to recite Vishnu Sahasranamam regularly, but he was never focused on what he was doing. He will say, शांताकारम भुजगनिशयनम, अरे झाड़ू वाला उधर झाड़ू मारो, पद्मनाभम सुरेशम, बरोबर मारो नहीं तो अभी तुमको मैं आके मारेगा. This is what happens. So your chanting is also not focused on what you are doing. He is the most immobile of all the things, which is, he is the Himalayas himself. He is the Ashwatha tree among all the trees. Ashwatha tree is the people tree that we are talking about. It is the shelter for everybody. All of us use that as our shelter. It is called the tree of life. Shwa means tomorrow. Ashwa means there is no tomorrow. So in that way, if you look at it, the Ashwatha tree also represents the changes, ever-changing world. Because in our life itself, in the morning when we wake up, there is a new day. So there is a change in our world itself the next morning. So like that, the Ashwatha tree represents the ever-changing world. He is Narada. Narada meaning he is the messenger who conveys the message to all of us to uplift ourselves from ignorance to knowledge. Narada's job itself is that. I'll just share one short story. Once again, I think I must have told you this earlier. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the story of Ratnakara and who became Valmiki. He was a dacoit. Now this dacoit was looting people. Narada met him in the forest and he said that, does your family partake in your sin of looting people? He went and checked with the family. The family said, no, we are not party to that. He got disillusioned and Narada motivated him to chant Ram's name, and then as he chanted Ram's name, he got transformed to Valmiki, Maharshi Valmiki. So this is what is the story. So what did Narada do? He conveyed a message that you can rise yourself from your ignorance to knowledge, and Valmiki went on, we all know, to write Ramayana. Now, in our sattvic mind, in the mind which is the purity in our mind, he is the milk in us. Like he is the ocean of milk that we are talking about, the one in which the churning of the ocean happened and the nectar, Amrit, came out of that. In our mind, he is the milk in us because we churn that milk in us by our reflection. And as the churning happens, many abilities will come about, many things that we are capable of. But we focus only on our inner purification, which is the nectar, which is the amritam, and which should be our real goal. Just a second. Did I forget that? Oh, that is still to come. Now, among the animals, he is the Kamaduk. Kamaduk meaning the Kamadhenu cow is the fulfiller of all desires. Kamadhenu, when we pray, we say that, you fulfill all my desires. He is that principle which is the fulfilling principle for all desires. He is the cupidity in procreation. Now, let's take, for example, we husband and wife. It is the love between the husband and wife which should end up in their procreation creating a child who goes on to become a fulsome individual. Otherwise, a sexual activity is only a physical activity. It is the love which is prevalent in the husband and wife which creates a fulsome child. So he is that cupidity, the love which results in procreation. He is the principle behind childbirth, is also his own expression. He is the rain which nourishes us every season, and he gives us the source of nourishment for always after that, because the water that comes to us is because of that rain. So he is the source of all that nourishment. He is the first among our entire ancestors. So if we go back and draw a family tree, sometime we will stop there. But before that also, if you go, he is the first among all of us. He is also the power of destruction. Why? Because a destruction is required for a new creation. Recently, we went and did some shopping for me. We bought some shirt, some clothes, etc. So I came back and discarded a few old ones. So what did you do? You created a new set of clothes, and for that you discarded something else. So some destruction is required for a new creation to find space. He is the best among cleansing agents. Cleansing agents meaning we get injured, we get injured when we are playing or something like that. There is a wound on our knee. What is the best way to, clean that wound? Clean it with water and allow sun and wind to come. Okay, there are some ointments, etc. That's a separate issue. Sun and wind to come, it will dry, because that is a natural process. So he is the sun and wind also. The sun and wind which makes all our somber emotions also go away. It will bring in a bright and windy atmosphere for us to express ourselves later. He is the knowledge flow itself. That what I am expressing, the knowledge flow which is happening itself, which enters our intellect through our ears. He is the repository of all that knowledge. He is the most subjective of all the sciences also. Because the knowing of that self, the knowing of his presence itself, he is the ultimate science to know. And he is the logic in all the arguments that we use. So he is the ability itself to know everything in us. The ability that we get to know everything, that is also him and him alone. So the power to destroy everything is also in him alone, because the death of a previous condition is the one which enables a new creation. So he is the reason why we come out of a previous death of an experience to grow into a new experience, and we create something new and we prosper. I'll share that slide which was there, and I share a small story of a movie. This is a still from a movie called Geet Gaya Pattarone. Now what happens in this sculpture itself is, it's a single piece of stone. Now the sculptor, is seeing an image of the girl who's sitting with a parda, and he's creating that image on that stone. So that image itself is already there in that blank stone, which he chiseled and he created the beauty. So when we look at it that way, this stone which was there, it died to become the statue. So the creation itself is happening because of a death of a previous condition, and that is how you are in a position to express a new creation. So this is also him and him alone. So even the ability that we have to cheat somebody. Now in gambling we want to cheat somebody. That ability is also him. The ability to create an atom bomb, that is also him. The ability to crush a constitution, which is happening now in Pakistan, that is also him. Because ultimately that ability is also coming from his expression. And he is the victory also in any activity. Like for example, in cheating also you sort of win, or even by this constitutional crisis, Imran Khan wanted to continue as the prime minister or maybe create an election. That is also him. He is the splendor in the splendid. Whether it is a flower, whether it is a beautiful woman, a child, it is his splendor, nothing else. And he is the niceness in nicety that we express. He is the goodness in good people. So when we understand like that, he is the very seed of all creation. He is the very material into which we all create whatever we are creating, and that creative work merges into a extinction. That is also entirely his expression alone. So knowing all these that we know, this is a few of them I narrated, all of this is useless because they are only examples. We must remember that he is the source of everything. He is the sustainer of everything. in the universe. And there is nothing in the universe which is not Him and Him alone. It is expressing through you and me in the form of our distinctions. So we have to understand that we have to wake up to Him, because He is never ending. We will end, but He is never ending. This is an understanding that we must all carry, because this is necessary for us as we move ahead. Now in the next chapter 11, we will have a different expression of these glories itself, and then we go on to understand our inner qualities. So it's necessary for us to understand this, so that we go ahead and we are able to understand our own inner qualities of love, devotion, abilities, anger, everything we will be able to understand. So I wind up with the last song, basically about waking up. जागो मोहन प्यारे जागो, नवयुग चूमे नैन तिहारे, जागो जागो मोहन प्यारे. With that, I end my session for today. And as I said, you can come back with your questions, with your thoughts, with your suggestions, doubts on WhatsApp anytime you want. Most welcome. Happy to share this with you, and happy to share whatever perspectives that I can with all of you. Thank you very much. Hari Om. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you everybody, and have a nice weekend.